Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of our Community Access. In early October, we showed you the Cemetary tour. Now we have some interviews about the cast. Then also in Oxford, we visit with the St. Augustine Open House. And also one of the great churches in Oxford is having a Connect dinner for our vets. And finally, we went to the Jack-O-Lantern Jamboree, all today in our Community Access. Welcome back. We have a lot of viewers, but they really like the cemetery tour, but they want to know who are those people with the interviews. With our reporter is a reporter Baker. Rachel?
This is Rachel Baker here at the Oxford Township Cemetary doing a cemetery tour. We're going to go and see what this is all about and learn a bit about Oxford's history. Come with us.
My name is John Shippey, and in 1824, when I was 15 years old, I began to manufacture millstones from boulders that I found turned up in farmers' fields and in the rivers and streams. I manufactured millstones for Governor Lewis Cass in Detroit for the old Knox Mill. Many of the mills out in Rochester, I made the stones for that as well. And I married my wife, Miss Mary Graham, in 1830, and I'm buried here, passed away in 1864.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Burdick Hudson, and I'm the youngest daughter of Dr. Egbert Burdick. He was the first doctor in Oxford. I had three siblings, but even though my father was a doctor, modern medicine wasn't what it is now. And we lost my younger brother at 1 year of age, and my second brother died at 11, and my sister didn't even live past age 25, although she did marry. So Dr. Burdick built a hall here in Oxford, and he was known for his wonderful sense of humor and his love for people because he loved doctoring so much. And I'm just so proud to be able to represent my father and let you know what a kind man that he was.
Hello, I'm Samuel Axford III, the Honorable Samuel Axford, who was the third settler to Oxford Township. I was a farmer by trade, however, I was able to have the high honor of serving in the Michigan State Legislature as a member of the House of Representatives, and was so much admired by my fellow constituents that they were even able to honor me as a state senator in the Michigan State Senate as well. My brother and I were able to go into business together, and we were able to have a farm implement store. I am one of 13 children and had the very fortune of having 8 children with my wife Phoebe Summers. I hail from Oxford Township, New Jersey. My wife is from Macomb County in Shelby Township.
But being really the first settlers out there and being the first official landowners, we had a lot of firsts in our home. We had the first school, we had the first church services, and eventually when more people had come and they started talking about making Oxford the four corners of Oxford, an actual town, the meetings were held in our home. And my husband was the second supervisor of Oxford. And I don't recall who the first one was. Well, but that's politics, which is a men's world. You know, they did all that sort of thing. So we had life on our homestead was wonderful. We had our children. We had 5 children and a lot of good neighbors. And we raised everything we needed. We raised ourselves. We had sheep, and we would shear the sheep and spin wool and make all our own things, like this lovely shawl. This was a little something I did for myself. And we grew our own food. And in the fall, this time of year, we'd be out harvesting apples and nuts. And the men would press the apples and make cider, and make the special cider that the men liked, or to carry them through the winter. And occasionally there would be things, about once a year, there were things that we just didn't have. So my husband would make the long trek back to Pontiac, to the village there, to get the supplies that we couldn't get elsewhere. But everything else, our soap and our candles and everything, all the materials came from our land. We produced them ourselves. And it was a very exciting time, you know, to come from such a settled area as we did in New York to this beautiful, beautiful place, and to raise our children here and to make friendships. The Axfords joined us out there, had their first home out near us, and the Rossmans and the Shippies. They were all out in that area. And then people kind of started gravitating towards town and eventually began to build what you see. Well, probably not what you see today. It's probably a little different than when I see it. So sadly, Mr. Deming died in 1860, but I stayed here in Oxford for another 34 years. And Mr. Deming is here, and I'm here. And although we traveled, we went back east, we visited our families and friends, we always came back to Oxford because this was home. It's a very special place for us.
Hello, I'm Eliza Moyers. I'm the wife of John Moyers. I was born in 1834, and my husband John was a prominent landowner here in Oxford. He helped settle the area all the way from Stony Lake to the village. At one point in time, we were the largest landholders here. He also was instrumental in bringing the railroad to Oxford, and our family prospered and our children grew here as well.
My husband was Mr. John Clemens. He was a blacksmith here in town, and he was murdered before he was 39 years old, and broke my heart. He did a lot for this community, and the people down in Arkansas would not investigate him.
I'm Horace Hovey. I'm actually buried on the other side of the old burying grounds with my wife Hannah and 4 of our children. But I'm telling the Hovey story here at this mausoleum because this was built by my son Silas P. Hovey, and he was quite a prosperous merchant and adventure capitalist, and I wanted to tell our family story and the story of the accomplishments of some of our children. I was born in Albany, New York in 1805. My father was a contractor on the Erie Canal. I was fortunate to have Miss Hannah accept my proposal for marriage in 1828. We married and decided to start our new life by traveling to the wilds of southern Michigan. When we came here, we came by boat across Lake Erie. It was the William Penn, which was the 5th steamship operating on the upper Great Lakes. When we landed at Detroit, Detroit was just a small village on the edge of the frontier. We made our way to Rochester and settled at our first home in Rochester. We lived there a number of years, and by 1837 we had moved here to Oxford. When the first official annual township meeting was held, I was present. We elected the officers for the township, and I was elected constable. I continued to farm, and we kept raising our family. Our family grew with the arrival of each of our 12 children. I was presented with the opportunity to buy the Exchange Hotel in 1843, which seemed like a good proposition to me. So the family continued farming, and we also worked as a family in our hotel. I sold the hotel in 1865. We had lived there with our family along with our guests. I sold it in 1865, and Mr. Cole purchased it. It went through a number of owners, and name changes through the years until 1877, when it was burnt down to the ground during the notorious fire of 1877 that destroyed the Southwest Business District in downtown. We're proud of all our children, and we love all our children, but I'm particularly proud of accomplishments of two of our sons. Our one son, Horatio, went on his own at the age of 14. He provided for himself, started his own business, and through his hard work, smart businessman workmanship, he ended up being one of the most prominent men in Muskegon, Michigan. After we had sold the hotel, myself and Hannah moved and lived with Horatio for a number of years. Hannah died there, and we always considered Oxford our home, so upon her passing, we returned her remains to the site on the other side of the burying ground where she was buried with our 4 children who had preceded us in death. I then moved to Detroit to live with my son Silas. Now Silas, he was also quite prominent businessman, but he was in the city of Detroit. He started out as a merchant in Oxford. During the Civil War, he went to Pontiac. There he purchased a dry goods business, which he operated for a number of years. He then got involved in the timber and lumber trade in Ionia, Michigan, until about 1872, or 1882, excuse me. He sold that. He also purchased a 4,000-acre seed and stock farm in Yellow Medicine, Minnesota. After he sold that, he was one of the original founding members of the Dime State Bank. The Dime State Bank was started in Detroit, and it's got its name from its proposition that anybody could open an account as long as they had 10 cents. Well, it built up to be one of the most prominent banks in the city of Detroit. After my passing, it continued, and it became not only one of the largest, but it also built one of the first skyscrapers in the city of Detroit. That building exists to this day. Of course, when Silas passed, he also considered Oxford his home, and he returned here. He had built this mausoleum for him and his wife. They are interred here. He married a woman by the name of Glaspie, which is a familiar name around town here. On their passing, they were both interred in this mausoleum. The mausoleum is described as a classic vestibule mausoleum. There's a vestibule in the center portion. There are room for 3 internments on each side of the vestibule. The idea being that with the vestibule you could visit in private, and it was also a place to place flowers. So that is the story of my family. So I hope you think kindly of us and marvel at what little town of Oxford has done for us, particularly my sons. And with smallest and slightest education, but through hard work and common sense, they went quite a long ways in life. Thank you.
All right, that's all from the Oxford Cemetery tour. We got to talk to some people and learn about Oxford history and see what people actually founded this place. It was a lot of great education. Thank you for coming out.
Well, there you go. Again, in early October, we sent our reporter Rachel and photographer Dave Weiss to the St. Augustine House, which is a Lutheran monastery and retreat house where they had a brand new building open house. Here is Rachel.
Father John at the St. Augustine Church on Drainer Road. Father John, can you tell me a bit about your church here, your monastery?
The monastery was founded in 1956 by Father Arthur Kreinhader, who owned this land, and it was his summer home. And he opened it for the formation of a religious community, a monastery, and then invited people to come for retreats. They've been doing it for all these years since, 61 years. Once a year we gather here and have a mass together and then have a lecture. This year we have a pig roast at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's a whole day of activities for the people who come from near and far, who are either members or friends or just neighbors, and have a good time, learn something, share something important in our lives.
That's fantastic. So that's a bit about the fellowship day today.
Yes.
Can you tell me what's a regular service at your monastery like?
We pray about 3 hours a day here in this church, beginning about 5:10 in the morning, and then throughout the day at different times. There are appointed times for the prayers. And then on Sundays at 10 o'clock we have a regular public mass, but there's a mass here every day at 8:30 in the morning during the week, and then on Sunday 10 o'clock.
What makes your monastery unique?
It's the only Lutheran monastery in the United States, actually in the whole of North America. There's another in Sweden and another in Germany, but this is the only one here. It's really the oldest of the three.
And what does that mean for the monastery? What does that change in rituals or?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. The monastery exists from and for the church. And it means that we are deeply involved with the life of the church, pray for the church, support the church, and it's also ecumenical in its configuration. We have Lutherans, Roman Catholics who live here, and then we also have had Methodists and Episcopal persons here, so that we are mixed. And that's a very healthy thing, because we live together, and that means you're with each other every day. And when we read, we share. And when we find exciting, we share that, so that it's a growth experience every day. We're very blessed to be in this place. The land here is wonderful. This is, in all of Michigan, this is one of the best hills. There are not that many hills in Michigan. So that I'm from Pennsylvania originally and grew up in the mountains in Pennsylvania, and I'm so glad it's on a hill, because I think if it were flat I would probably die.
Understandable.
Yeah. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. I've been coming here since 1961 as a retreatant, and now I've been a monk here for almost 10 years, and I love being here. I love the place. I love the life. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Father John.
Yeah.
Brother Richard. Brother Richard, can you tell me what's going on here today?
This is our annual Fellowship Day, what we call the Fellowship Day. It's for the St. Augustine's Fellowship of St. Augustine. And we've had this annual for, I guess, 60 years or so, since 1956. And it used to be near St. Augustine's Day at the end of August, but lately we've tried later in the fall, so now we have it around in the middle of October, where we have beautiful colors here in Michigan. So.
That's fantastic. All right, tell me, what are you doing here today? I see you're serving coffee and cookies.
Yes, one of my jobs is to host the coffee and the cookies, and then someone else is in charge of the meal later on, thank goodness. So this is all I can manage.
All right, what's your favorite part of these days once a year? What do you like to do?
Well, I think the liturgy and the singing, having and meeting the people who come maybe just once a year to see us, and meeting new people that come maybe for the first time during these fellowship days. So and the speakers, the various speakers we have are always interesting and worth hearing.
What kind of speakers do you guys have?
Well, we've had speakers on the liturgy, on history. Today we'll hear something about how to reach out to different generations of children. A pastor in, not children, young people, from Valparaiso University, and so it just varies.
That's great. All right. Thank you, Richard.
Okay. Thank you.
With John and Sandy Burney. So can you guys please tell me, what are you guys doing out here today? What's your contribution to Fellowship Day?
We contributed various aspects of the day's events. Sandra with her decorating and putting the tent up, and myself with the labor, and another couple of people, Lloyd
and Betty Bess.
Yeah. And we planted the grounds.
And we landscaped the courtyard. Yeah.
And we're kind of cleaning it up. When we first found the place a year and a half ago, there was just 3 monks is all we knew, and we got to know them, and what a bunch of great people and a great organization out here, and
we're just supporting everything they do.
Yes, and we love it. So it's peaceful, it's a good Christian environment, and it's everything that old people like myself want to come out and participate in.
All right, thank you so much.
Next up, one of our great churches in Oxford is having a Community Connect dinner for vets. With a reporter again, Janet Warner. Janet?
This is Janet for OCTV, and we are here with the fine folks with Community Connect. And they are...
Lori Greco.
Craig Schaefer.
Lori Jones.
Doug Jones.
Thank you so much for being with us. You have a big event coming up. Can you tell me, Craig, what's going on?
It's especially for our veterans. It's a special program which not only involves a catered meal, but also a special program designed just for them, music. So we have some real good professional groups singing for them, and it's been very popular in the past. And so
awesome. And can you tell me the date and where it's going to be at?
Well, it is November 11th, and this year it actually falls on Veterans Day, 3 o'clock, held at our church on 790 South Clear Road of Oxford Free Methodist Church.
But it is actually a veterans dinner. The actual title is?
It is a veterans dinner.
What's on your menu?
We have turkey dressing, mashed potatoes, and pumpkin pie, a traditional Thanksgiving dinner this year. In the past, we've changed up the menu, and so we were donated some turkeys, and we thought we would go with that theme. So it's just kind of going right along.
And it's all available for just a song.
It is a song. In fact, there'll be a few songs. But it is free to all veterans and their families, no matter what branch or time that they served. And so all they have to do is register, and we have it on our Facebook. We've distributed. I put it on the Oxford Next Door, so there's been plenty of distribution about the event coming up.
How many people are you expecting?
Well, we are expecting at least 100 veterans and guests, not to mention our volunteers. Last year, we fed over about 140 people with everyone.
Wow. Well, the Free Methodist Church of Oxford is going to be a packed house on November 11th, and it benefits an outreach program, I understand. Whose outreach program is it?
Oxford Church.
Oxford
Free Methodist Church.
And the program is Community Connect. Tell me a little bit about Community Connect, if you would, Lori.
Community Connect was started to bring people into the church from the community. And we just started it with little events here and there, and now we're broadening the horizons and coming up with more ideas and trying to get the community connected.
That's awesome, and this is the biggest event that you do all year. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope you have an awesome event.
Thank you.
Honoring all those who have served. You're invited to share in a complimentary dinner for veterans and their families. Saturday, November 11th, 2017 at 3 p.m. It's sponsored by Community Connect, an outreach ministry of the Oxford Free Methodist Church. Reservations are required. Register online at oxfordfmc.org or call 248-628-1203.
We had a great time with Halloween this year, and the last event for us will be the Jack-O-Lantern Jamboree. Once again is Rachel and photographer Dan Zweiss.
We're here at Oakwood Park at the Jack-O-Lantern Jamboree in Oxford, and there's going to be a lot of apple cider and donuts, some trick-or-treating down the trail here, and we're going to have a lot of fun, meet a lot of people today. Recreation Supervisor Lauren Smith. Can you tell me what's going on here today?
Sure, we've got our Jack-O-Lantern Jamboree out here at Oakwood Lake Township Park.
All right, what kind of stuff's going on? And tell me about the people, the turnout.
Sure, we've got a hayride that starts up at the front of the park. We've got 2 different tractors and hayrides coming around. They come around to the trail here. We've got 10 to 12 houses with our National Honor Society students. They're very helpful. They help us out with all the events. Houses that the kids go trick-or-treating at. Not all candy, some bubbles, trinket stuff. And the trail ends. We have a pumpkin patch that they get to pick a pumpkin, and then we've got some cider and donuts for the event.
That sounds really fun for the kids. I'm sure the turnout looks great. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Of course, thank you.
Dominic, who's dressing up as an astronaut. Dominic, can you tell me about your costume?
I'm an astronaut this year, but for some reason I chose the pure suit one, and it felt comforting on me.
Nice, I like that. And you said you wanted to be an astronaut when you grow up, right?
Yes, that is correct.
You want to work for NASA?
Yes, I'm gonna do that and explore the ISS once I get there.
That's awesome. Have a lot of fun, okay? High five.
Okay, you too.
That's great. Time out here at the Jack-O-Lantern Jamboree here in Oxford and Oakwood Park. You can guys take a walk out here. It's a really great place, got 300 acres. It's beautiful out here. We met a lot of great people, saw a lot of cute costumes, and had a lot of apple cider and donuts. It was a great time. The kids got to trick-or-treat. It was great. All right, thank you everybody.
Well, that's all the time for this week. We hope you enjoyed our program. So, for our reporter, Rachel Baker, and photographer Dan Zweiss, and our editors, Kyle Slint, Janet Warner, and Terry Stiles, and everybody else, I'm Bill Service, and you have a great, great day on Community Access.
used to think news is news. It's all the same. But it's not. There's a big difference between local broadcast news and cable news. See, local stations are part of my community, connecting me to local news, weather, and sports on every device. It makes sense. Get the news from the people I trust who actually live here. No agenda, no bias like on cable shout shows or social media, just facts. For news I can trust, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text TV to 52886 today.